When you think about police, you might think of an officer's physical duty of keeping you safe, but there's also a psychological aspect to it. Western Illinois University educators are taking the psychological aspect of the job to a new level with a DTAL Center. That stands for De-escalation Training Through Active Learning. The university's psychology department was awarded a nearly $750,000 grant to help officers and trainees learn how to have better interactions with community members.
It really is focusing in on those interpersonal dynamics. We can think about it most easily as rapport, right? Rapport building. How do you build rapport with a stranger? How do you approach a stranger? And if we think about it, officers are doing that all the time.
And she went on to say officers can learn in several different ways, including online and with virtual reality technology.